I feel like everyone can agree that fire-type Pokemon are pretty cool, but I think what's more important is how well do they fare in the Paldea region. Well, with the Hardcore Nuzlocke rule set, as well as my starter Pokemon, Chili the Fuecoco, we set off on a journey to prove the greatness of fire-type Pokemon. After a quick rival battle against Nemona, she takes us over to Poco Path to try and teach us how to catch a Pokemon. But I'm not catching this dumb Lechonk, I'm catching the newest member of our team, Belle the Fletchling. Afterwards, we find this weird lizard on the beach who is weirdly into sandwiches, and later meet our second rival, Arven. Afterwards, I have a battle with Nemona who tries to flex on me with her terrestrialization, but we just cook her anyways and head over into Mesagoza. Before we could even make it to school, we're already getting bullied by Team Star. They challenge us to a Pokemon battle, and after dealing with the first one, Nemona comes out and gives us a Terra Orb. To quickly clarify my rule for Terra, I can only Terra as long as my Terra type is Fire. Otherwise, it's a no Terra zone. Anyways, after dealing with those no good delinquents, it's time to start our first days of school. Afterwards, we can start all the individual stories of all our friends at school, and head back to the cave where we met Koraidon and catch our next team member, Curry the Houndour. Afterwards, we can head over to Cortando and challenge the first gym. Kathy uses bug-type Pokemon, which shouldn't be a problem for our fire types. Kathy leads with Nimble, while I lead with Chili. Turn 1, I Terrestrialize to boost my fire-type moves, while Nimble outspeeds and lands a double kick to deal a decent bit of damage. And Incinerate gets the one-hit KO, and next to come in is Tarantula. Chili outspeeds and takes a KO with an Incinerate, and last for Kathy is Teddiursa. After terrestrializing into a bug type, Teddiursa lands a Fury Swipes that hits 5 times and deals a ton of damage. Chili, barely hanging on with 7 HP, lands an Incinerate that doesn't quite take the KO against Teddiursa. I have to switch out to Curry the Houndour, but Teddiursa lands a boosted Fury Cutter that nearly KOs Curry. A crit here surely would have meant the end of our run, but fortunately, Curry hung on and an Ember is able to take down Teddiursa next turn. With that, we have earned our first gym badge against Kathy and her bug types. Right after that, just outside of Cortando City, we find ourselves a Capsicid. I name him Tabisco, which I later realize is actually Tabasco, but I come to the conclusion that it being misspelled adds more to the personality. On our way to the Stone Cliff Titan, we find a Charcadet who I name Jalapeno. Afterwards, with a Firestone, I'm able to evolve Capsicid into a Scovillain, and with the new level cap, I'm able to evolve Chili into a Crocolore. Now we have to go over and fight Cloth, the Stone Cliff Titan, and I lead with Jalapeno. Cloth outspeeds and goes for a block, preventing me from switching, while Jalapeno goes for a Will-O-Wisp, burning the Cloth. Cloth goes for a Rock Smash, while Jalapeno goes for a Fire Spin. Then, thankfully, the Cloth's random AI never goes for any rock moves. With all the residual damage, Cloth then goes into its second phase a couple turns later. Thankfully, these second phases are easier now that we have Arven on our side, and here, Cloth misses a Rock Tomb on turn 1. Shelter lands a good bit of damage while Jalapeno burns the Cloth with a Will-O-Wisp. Next turn, I swap out Jalapeno for Tabisco, and Cloth blocks in Tabisco. A Water Gun does good damage, and next turn Cloth goes for a Vice Grip, and Tabisco does good damage with a Razor Leaf. This procs Cloth's Angry Shell, while Shelter goes for a Leer. Next turn, a Rock Tomb doesn't quite take the KO on Tabisco, and a combination of Razor Leaf and Water Gun is able to take down Cloth once and for all. Afterwards, Arven and I share a sandwich, and we can get ready for our next gym. With the new level cap, we're finally able to add Belle to our team as she becomes a Fletchender. From here, we can head to Artis Zone where we're chased by this army of Sunflora who are all in low frame rate. Then we can challenge Brassius and his grass types. He leads with Petalil while I lead with Tabisco. On turn 1, Tabisco sets up a Sunny Day while Petalil just goes for a weak Mega Drain. A Flamethrower then takes a KO in a single hit, and next to come in is Smoliv who goes down to the same fate. Last to come in for Brassius is his Sudowoodo, and since I know he'll Terrestrialize into a grass type, I launch off a Flamethrower hoping that it would kill. But I completely forgot about Sturdy, so it lives on 1 HP and launches a Rock Throw that nearly takes down Tabisco. But it's fine, since Tabisco lived, it's able to launch a Flamethrower and take down Sudowoodo finally next turn. With Sudowoodo finally going down, we earn ourselves the Artizone City Gym Badge. Once that's done, I'm able to catch a Growlithe who I named Cajun. I can immediately evolve Cajun using a Firestone so that he becomes an Arcanine. From here, I can go up this death trap of a mountain so I can fight the next Titan. When we arrive at the top, we face off against Bombardier, the Open Sky Titan. I lead off with Cajun who gets off an Intimidate, and Bombardier misses a Rock Throw while Cajun does a clean half with a the Play Rough. Bombardier goes for a pluck that doesn't deal that much damage, while Cajun lands a Play Rough to send Bombardier into its second phase. With the help of Arvin, the second phase isn't that much different, and a couple Play Roughs later, Bombardier goes down. With that, we can enjoy another sandwich and then make our way over to a Team Star base. This particular base is led by Giacomo and his dark types. After running to the Team Star base, it's time to face off against their leader. Giacomo pulls up to me in his radical ride and challenges us to a battle where he leads with Poniard and I lead with Chili. Poniard outspeeds and lands an aerial ace that doesn't deal that much damage, while Incinerate barely misses the KO. The same thing happens next turn with Poniard going down, and next to come out is the Starmobile. From here I swap out to Cajun, who lands an Intimidate, while a Wicked Torque deals some decent damage and puts Cajun to sleep. I switch out to Jalapeno to try and get a Will-O-Wisp, but a Wicked Torque deals way too much damage, and I'm forced to switch out again to Tabisco. On the switch in, I take a decent chunk from Snarl, and next turn I dodge a Metal Sound to land a Bullet Seed. Unfortunately, the Bullet Seed only lands twice, which doesn't deal that much damage, and next turn a Snarl brings me down to the yellow while I try to greed for a Growth. A crit would kill me, but I'm not really in a position to play around it, so a Snarl brings me down to the red, while a Bullet Seed only lands twice again, unfortunately dealing no damage. On random move, I swap out to Curry, who fortunately tanks the Wicked Torque, and tank a Metal Sound next turn while landing an Incinerate to deal just a little bit of chip damage. I definitely cannot afford to stay in, so I decide to switch out to Cajun to try and burn some sleep turns. Cajun stays asleep for 2 turns, tanking 2 Snarls in the process. With 18 HP remaining, I can tank at least 1 more without a crit, and so I risk it and barely survive on 5 HP, and also wake up in the same turn to land a Play Rough to deal a ton of damage. And with that clutch Play Rough, I'm able to pivot around to the rest of my Pokemon who all survive on red HP, and take down the Starmobile with some very fortunate luck. Some misplaced crits could have led to some Pokemon's deaths, but fortunately we survived deathless. And when I say it was close, I genuinely meant it. Look at this team's HP. The average surviving HP of my party right now is unironically 8. But with that survival, it means we get a couple new additions and some upgrades to our team. In the Asada Desert, we're able to find a Larvesta who unfortunately will not be able to be used until after the 8th gym, but trust me, once it becomes a Volcarona, it'll be a very vital member of our team. I name her Wasabi and later move on to find another team member, Roly-Coly. I name him Reaper, and then I'm able to go to the town just nearby in order to get an auspicious armor. This means I can evolve Jalapeno into one of my favorite new Pokemon ever, Armor Rouge. Right after this, Reaper, who is halfway underground, is able to evolve into a Carkol, and then we can head over to Lavencia for our next gym battle. But before we could even start the gym challenge, Nemona stops us and challenges us to a battle. Nemona leads with Rockruff while I lead with Cajun. A Play Rough leads Rockruff on 1 HP, and Intimidate means a Rock Throw doesn't deal that much damage. Flame Wheel takes a KO, and next to come out is Palmy, who goes down to a single Play Rough. Last up is Floragato, who uses Grass Terra and ends up going down to 2 Flame Wheels. With Nemona taken care of, we can then challenge Iono and her electric types. She starts off the battle by leading with Watch Roll while I lead with Reaper. A Spark deals a negligible amount of damage while a Smackdown nearly takes a KO in a single hit. A second Spark paralyzes Reaper while I land a Flame Charge to take the KO. Next to come in for Iono is her Belly Bolt, and I swap out to Tabisco. Tabisco takes negligible damage on the switch in from a Water Gun, and a Flamethrower deals about 30% while a Water Gun brings me down to about 70%. Next turn I set up a Sunny Day trying to deal more damage, but a powered up Spark does way more damage than I expected. So from here I swap out to Jalapeno, who doesn't take that much damage on the switch in, and terrestrialize into a fire type to blow up Belly Bolt with a Mystical Fire. Next to come in is Luxio, but she ends up going down to a single hit from a Mystical Fire. Last to come in is Miss Magius, who terrestrializes into an electric type, and a Hex deals a scary amount of damage to Jalapeno. Mystical Fire does a ton in retaliation while also lowering Miss Magius' special attack. From here I swap out to Chili, who takes a decent bit of damage from a Hex on the switch in, and next turn he gets confused by Confuse Ray and ends up hitting himself like an idiot. Next turn, another Hex leaves Chili in the yellow, while Incinerate does a pitiful amount of damage. So I decide to swap out to Cajun, who gets confused on the switch in by a Confuse Ray, but breaks through anyways and lands an Extreme Speed to finally end the battle. With that, we've defeated Iono and earned ourselves the 3rd gym badge. Right after the battle, we head just outside of Lavencia City to find a Rotom. I nicknamed them Hot Sauce, and they'll be sitting on the bench for a little bit, at least until I get the Rotom catalog. And pretty soon after, we're over in Team Star's base base doing their challenge and challenging the next leader. Mela is a fire type leader, and after she pulls up with her Starmobile, she sends out a Torkoal. I lead off with Belle the Fletchender, and turn 1 I set up a Rain Dance. Torkoal deals pitiful damage with a Flame Wheel, and I switch out to Jalapeno next turn. 4 Psyshocks leaves Torkoal on low HP, and the damage traded leaves Jalapeno deep into the yellow. Once the rain ends, I swap out to Belle and take down Torkoal with a quick attack, and then the Starmobile comes out to fight. The Starmobile lands a strong overheat against Belle, while Belle just sets up another Rain Dance. Afterwards, I swap out to Cajun, who tanks a Wicked Torque, who then gets hit by a Screech and then sets up a Howl. An Extreme Speed deals some decent damage, while the Starmobile just keeps landing Wicked Torques. I go for another Howl to raise my attack, and land 2 more Extreme Speeds that puts the Starmobile down into the yellow. Eventually, Cajun can't tank any more hits, so I have to switch out to Reaper, who can confidently tank any hit and land smackdown after smackdown until finally the Starmobile goes down. A much easier battle than the last, but to be honest, the matchup wasn't that hard. Afterwards, I make this nasty sandwich with nothing but pickles on it in order to increase my odds of finding fire types. Then I run around until I find a Blaze Breed Tauros, who I nicknamed Sriracha. Afterwards, we move over to battle against the Steel type Titan, who respectfully gets destroyed fairly quickly, especially because of the matchup. Then we can head over to Cascarafa City, where we can do the gym challenge that also gives us access to the Rotom catalog. This means Hot Sauce can officially join the team after it becomes a Rotom Heat. Now we have to battle probably the hardest gym leader in the entire run, Kofu and his water types. Veluza lands a Pluck that deals about 60% to Tabisco, while Tabisco takes a KO with a Bullet Seed that lands 3 times. Next to come in is Wugtrio, who goes for a move, but Tabisco dodges it using the friendship mechanic and is able to take down Wugtrio in a single Bullet Seed. Last to come in is Crabominable, and I know Tabisco needs to land Bullet Seed at least 5 times in order to take the KO in a single hit. And absolutely nothing can take a Crabhammer on the switch in. So, with a loaded dice equipped to maximize my odds, all I can do is pray to the RNG gods that hopefully I get all 5 hits. But then, disaster strikes. I miss out on the 5 hits, and we have to say goodbye to Tabisco. Is what I would say if the friendship mechanic wasn't the best thing in the world. And because Tabisco toughed it out, we're able to take down Crabominable next turn from a single hit of Bullet Seed. With my goat Tabisco pulling through, we earn ourselves the Cascarafa City Gym Badge. As we continue forward, it's kind of like a mini boss rush as it's time to face off against the Team Star Poison leader. Atticus leads with Skuntank while I lead with Jalapeno. Skuntank lands a Toxic while Jalapeno lands a Will-O-Wisp. Afterwards, I swap out to Sriracha to Psycho and Intimidate, while a Venoshock doesn't deal that much damage. Next turn, Sriracha lands a Drill Run that leaves Skuntank at about 25% HP, while Skuntank lands a Toxic. Once again, I swap out to Cajun and land an Extreme Speed to take down Skuntank, and next to come in is Revavroom. Revavroom lands a strong Bulldoze while a Flame Wheel brings Revavroom down to about 30%. On the next Bulldoze, I swap out to Hot Sauce, who then takes a KO with an Overheat. Next to come out is Muck, so I swap out to Jalapeno, who takes a clean half on the switch in, and a Psyshock is able to take down Muck in a single hit. Last up is the Poison type Starmobile, who lands a nasty Noxious Torque, and I'm reminded of the harsh reality that the Starmobile cannot be burned. On random move, I swap out to Cajun to Psycho and Intimidate, who tanks a spin out on the switch in. Then next turn I Terrestrialize into a fire type and use Howl. The Starmobile goes for a weak Flame Charge, and the next turn goes for a Noxious Torque after it outspeeds. The move poisons me while a Flame Wheel deals some decent chip damage. On random move, I swap out to Hot Sauce, who tanks a Noxious Torque and then takes a second one to land an Overheat. Then I swap out into Reaper, and she also tanks a Noxious Torque on the switch in. She dodges the next move fortunately and lands a Rapid Spin to get rid of the toxic debris. Then a Spin Out deals some decent damage while a Smackdown does a good amount of chip. Then one more trade later, I'm forced to swap out to Chili. Then fortunately, Chili is able to take down the last bit of remaining HP from the Starmobile and win us the battle. Next up on our boss rush is the Medalli Gym. Here we face off against everybody's favorite gym leader, Larry. Larry leads with Kamala while I lead with Sriracha. A double kick just barely misses a KO while Kamala lands a Yawn onto Sriracha. This forces me to switch out to Hot Sauce, where I could take the KO with a Volt Switch and switch back out into Sriracha. This means the Dunsparce comes out, so I swap back to Hot Sauce in order to avoid a glare. I Volt Switch again out to Reaper so I can tank a Hyper Drill, and then swap back in Hot Sauce for another glare. I Volt Switch again, this time out to Sriracha, and finally take the KO with a double kick. Last to come in is Larry's Staraptor, so I swap out again to Hot Sauce, while everyone gathers around to see Larry's Terrestrialization into a normal type. An Aerial Ace barely deals any damage, and I grossly underestimate the amount of damage a Staraptor can do with a Facade. With that, we lose Hot Sauce, who wasn't a member for a very long time, but was very greatly appreciated. I send in Cajun to Psycho and Intimidate, and then send in Reaper afterwards, who unfortunately procs Flame body. Then, after a couple of turns, I eventually send in Cajun, who's able to terastallize into a fire type and land a flame wheel to finally end the battle. And with that, the Medalli gym is defeated. Nemona challenges us to a battle, but nothing of note really happens, so we could just skip it and move on. From here, we head over to Montenever City in order to challenge the next gym. The gym leader here is Rhyme, and she uses ghost types. She leads with Bayonet and Mimikyu, while I lead with Houndoom and Skeledirge. Turn 1, I terastallize Chili so that I won't get hit by any super effective ghost moves, and after a slash from Mimikyu, Houndoom is able to take down Bayonet with a single Dark Pulse. A Shadow Ball from Chili breaks Mimikyu's disguise, and then we get an Omni Boost from the crowd. This means next turn we're able to outspeed and KO both of the opposing Pokemon on the same turn. And the extra Omni Boost from the crowd is just overkill at this point, as Toxtricity is the only Pokemon left and eventually goes down to a single Dark Pulse. With that, we defeat Rhyme and earn ourselves the 6th gym badge. From here we get head over to the Asada Desert, where we face off against the Ground Titan. I lead with Jalapeno in order to get off a Will-O-Wisp, and then a combination of Psyshock plus a Zen Headbutt is able to send Great Tusk into its second phase. In the second phase, instead of leading with Jalapeno, I lead with Sriracha to Psycho and Intimidate. I then switch out to Jalapeno while Great Tusk lands a weak Rapid Spin and Scovillain wastes time going for a Scary Face. Jalapeno then burns the Titan using a Will-O-Wisp, while Scovillain goes for a Razor Leaf that deals decent damage, and Great Tusk goes for a Stomping Tantrum into Scovillain. A combination of Psyshock and Razor Leaf leave Great Tusk in the yellow, while Great Tusk goes for a useless Rapid Spin. Then, 2 more turns later, Great Tusk finally goes down to a Psyshock. With that taken care of, we've only got one Titan left. On our way to our next destination, we find Jerk Chicken the Salandit, who quickly evolves into Salazzle. Just before our next gym battle, Nemona challenges us to another battle that again doesn't have anything really noteworthy, so she'll be on the back burner just for one more fight. Instead, it's time to face off against the Alfornada City gym leader, Tulip. Tulip leads with Farigiraf while I lead with Houndoom. Houndoom is able to take down Farigiraf in a single Dark Pulse, and next to come in is Gardevoir. I swap out to Salazzle on a Dazzling Gleam, hoping that a Sludge Bomb is able to take the KO next turn, but unfortunately it misses the KO, which means Salazzle goes down to a Psychic immediately after. However, this means Curry can come in and take down both the Gardevoir and the Espathro with 2 Dark Pulses respectively. Last to come in is Florges, who is especially bulky, which means it won't go down to a single Dark Pulse. Fortunately, Curry doesn't go down to a Moonblast, which means next turn one last Dark Pulse is able to secure the kill and earn us the 7th gym badge. From here, we immediately head over to Glaciado City so we can challenge the 8th and final gym. Here we have to face off against Grusha and his Ice types, who leads with Frostmoth and I lead with Jalapeno. This battle is pretty simple, as I could just terastallize Jalapeno into a fire type and set up a couple Calm Minds to sweep the entire gym. The only scare we have is when Altaria comes in, it outspeeds and confuses Jalapeno, but fortunately we never hit ourselves and we take it down in a single hit. With Grusha's defeat, we have collected all 8 gym badges, which means we only have a couple more challenges to face until the Elite Four. First of which is Ortega, the Fairy type Team Star leader. He leads with Azumarill while I lead with Tabisco. A Seed Bomb leaves Azumarill in the red, but Azumarill just wastes his time going for a Crunch, which means next turn I could take the KO and swap out to Skeledirge on the Wigglytuff. Chili eventually takes down Wigglytuff with a couple Torch Songs, and last up is the Fairy type Team Starmobile. Here I decided to swap out to Cajun and send up a bunch of Howls after terastallizing into a Fire type, and eventually take the KO with 2 Flame Wheels. With Ortega taken care of, all we have left is one more Titan and one more Team Star leader. Speaking of which, we can head over to the Titan right now and face off against Dondozo, the False Dragon Titan. Tabisco can pretty confidently 1v1 it using Seed Bombs, and after 2 turns it goes into its second phase. When I get to the second phase, I lead with Tabisco again, and on turn 1 I set up a Sunny Day. Then Greedent and I are able to take down Dondozo pretty easily with a combination of Body Slams and Seed Bombs. Once Dondozo gets taken out, however, Tatsugiri comes out and we still have to fight him as well. Like before, I set up a Sunny Day on turn 1, but instead this time I switch out to Cajun. On the switch in, I'm hit by a Muddy Water that lowers my accuracy while also bringing Greedent down to the red. Greedent lands a Tail Whip, which means my Play Rough to Tatsugiri does about half HP. A Muddy Water takes down Greedent while also bringing me down to the yellow, so instead of risking a disastrous crit, I decided to swap out to Jalapeno. This wasn't a good idea, however, because Jalapeno is one hit after the switch in, and I'm forced to swap out again to Tabisco, who is hit by a Dragon Pulse and is once again left in critical condition. From here I swap out to Bell, and fortunately the random AI has Tatsugiri go for Taunt, and Bell is able to land 3 Aerial Aces while fortunately dodging Muddy Waters due to the friendship mechanic. With that, we have defeated all the Titans and have one last battle remaining in Arven's story. From here we get can head over to the fighting type Team Star base and challenge their leader to a Pokemon battle. Team Star leader Aerie leads with a Toxicroak while I lead with Jalapeno. A Psychic absolutely explodes Toxicroak, and next to come out is Lucario, who also goes down to a single Flamethrower. Next to come in is Passimian, who also goes down to a single Psychic, and after that is Annihilate. Jalapeno dodges a close combat due to the friendship mechanic, and a Psychic is able to bring down Annihilate to the red. I then swap out to Belle to take the close combat, but she just dodges it anyways and lands an Aerial Ace to take down Annihilate. Last to come in is the Starmobile, who eats an Aerial Ace and then goes for a Combat Torque. I swap into Chili on a scary shift gear, and then trade a high horsepower for a Torch Song for some good damage. I swap into Belle on a high horsepower and go for an Aerial Ace to deal some decent damage while a Combat Torque deals some good damage back. From here I swap back and forth between Sriracha and Cajun to Psycho Intimidates because these shift gears are getting out of hand. Eventually I swap in Jalapeno to try and get a Psychic in, but stupidly I let him go down to a high horsepower for no reason. I then send in Tabisco, who takes a Combat Torque and lands a Flamethrower for some very good damage. From here I swap out to Chili on random move, which wasn't a good idea, but fortunately we're not punished, and the Starmobile sets up another shift gear while a Flamethrower brings Starmobile down to 1 HP. A high horsepower leaves Chili at 2 HP, but he ends up pulling through and takes the final KO with one final Flamethrower to end Team Star. Finally, we're able to challenge the Elite Four, and with the new level cap, we're able to get a Volcarona finally, ignore the level cap on the screen, and finally, once we take this test with Rika, we're able to challenge the Elite Four. Rika is up first with her ground types, and she leads with Whiscash while I lead with Tabisco. A single Seed Bomb takes a KO, and next to come out is Donphan. A Seed Bomb leaves Donphan in the yellow, while a Stone Edge puts Tabisco at 4 HP. Fortunately, we outspeed, and we can just take the KO with a Seed Bomb, and next to come in is Dugtrio. I swap out to Wasabi, the newly Volcarona, who dodges a Quiver Dance but gets nailed by a nasty Rock Slide, nearly getting KO'd in the process. If you can't tell by now, my planning for this fight was very awful. I swap out to Sriracha on the Rock Slide, and Dugtrio sets up a Sandstorm while a Raging Bull is able to take it down in a single hit. Next to come out is Camerupt, who takes a giant hit from a Drill Run, but unfortunately it kills Sriracha with a single Earth Power. Cajun can come in next and take the kill with an extreme speed, but not without a heavy heart. Last to come in is Clodsire, who terrestrializes into a ground type, while I terrestrialize into a fire type. A boosted Flame Wheel does about 40%, while Clodsire just lands a Toxic. I swap out to Belle on a Protect, and trade an Acrobatics for a Liquidation. Eventually I win this war of attrition, but not without a heavy heart, as I'm forced to say goodbye to Sriracha. Next up of the Elite Four is Poppy and her Steel types. She leads with Caparaja while I lead with Wasabi. Turn 1 I set up a Quiver Dance while Caparaja goes for a Stealth Rocks. I then set up a second Quiver Dance while Caparaja goes for a high horsepower. I then misclick Bug Buzz instead of Flamethrower like an idiot, but fortunately I'm not punished, which means next turn I can just take it down with another Flamethrower. The Corviknight and Bronzong that both come in next both get one shot by a Flamethrower, and second to last is Poppy's Magnezone. It survives a hit due to Sturdy and sets up a Light Screen, which means we have to stall some turns. Fortunately we dodge all crits and paralysis while setting up Quiver Dances in the process, and on the last turn of Light Screen I'm able to take down Magnezone, and last to come in is Tinkaton. But since I know she's going to terrestrialize into a Steel type, it doesn't really matter, and a Flamethrower one-shots it anyways. Next up is everyone's favorite Elite Four member, Larry, and his flying types. He leads with Tropius while I lead with Reaper, and set up a Stealth Rocks while he sets up a Sunny Day. He then uses Solar Beam while I set up Rock Polish twice, and then take it down with 5 hits from a Rock Blast. Next to come in is Staraptor, who takes a big chunk from Stealth Rocks, but I gotta swap out because of a close combat, so I go out to Cajun to Psycho and Intimidate. Then a Terra boosted Flame Wheel is able to take down Staraptor, and next to come out is Oricorio Pom Pom form. A Flame Wheel leaves Oricorio on 1 HP while Oricorio lands a Teeter Dance, which means I have to swap out. I swap into Curry, who tanks a Revelation Dance and is able to take down Oricorio next turn with a Dark Pulse. Next for Larry is Altaria, so I swap back into Cajun, who is able to take down Altaria in 2 moves while tanking Dragon Pulses. Last up is Flamigo, who is an actual demon for my team, as I try to swap out to Belle, who lives on actual 1 HP from a Terra boosted Brave Bird. I then swap out to Chili on another Brave Bird that leaves me just below half HP, and this time I swap out again into Reaper this time. I try to bank on random move, pulling a fighting type move, so I swap back out to Chili, but instead he just tanks a Liquidation and fortunately lives. I have no choice but to switch into Wasabi here and pray for something that I can survive, and fortunately I pull Liquidation, which Wasabi pulls through and lands a Flamethrower to finally end the battle. Last up in the Elite Four is Hassel and his Dragon types. On turn 1 we both avoid each other's attacks, and on turn 2 I set up a Stealth Rocks while Noivern lands a Super Fang. Next turn a Dragon Pulse fortunately misses, and a Rock Blast is able to take down Noivern, burn in 3 hits. Next to come out is Dragalge, and I stay in, fortunately dodging a Hydro Pump and land a Stone Edge that crits and leaves Dragalge on 1 HP. I then swap out to Bell, who survives a Hydro Pump and is able to take the KO with an Aerial Ace, getting poisoned in the process. Next to come out is Haxorus, so I swap out to Cajun to Cyclone Intimidate and tank a Rock Tomb. Another Rock Tomb leaves me pretty low, but a Play Rough leaves Haxorus low enough so that an Extreme Speed next turn is able to take the KO. Next for Hassel is his Flapple, so I try to swap out to Curry, but he nearly gets one-shot by a Dragon Rush, which means I gotta swap out again to Chili, and I try to set up a Will-O-Wisp but flinch to a Dragon Rush. Then Flapple wastes time setting up a Leech Seed while I try to land a Will-O-Wisp and unfortunately miss. This means I have to swap out again, and I go out to Reaper, who dodges a Dragon Rush, and Flapple lands another Leech Seed while I land a strong Stone Edge. This means I can swap out to Cajun on a Dragon Rush and take the KO with a Play Rough. Last to come out is Hassel's Baxcalibur, who is going to Terastallize into a Dragon type. And I know there's not a single Pokemon in the universe that wants to swap into a Terra boosted Glaive Rush. So I realize the harsh reality that I probably have to sacrifice Cajun here. I click Play Rough, getting ready to send off Cajun, and unfortunately I miss. But even at my lowest, I know that Friendship Mechanic has got my back, which means I dodge a Glaive Rush. Unfortunately, because they dodge Play Rough, it changes absolutely nothing, and Cajun still has to land the Play Rough and die afterwards. But the bond between I and Cajun is unbreakable and unmatchable. Rest well, puppy. Any trainer would be truly blessed to have you. Since Baxcalibur is going to take double damage, I'm able to send in Wasabi and take the KO with a Bug Buzz. So many of our friends have shed blood in this room, but even if they aren't here with me physically, I know spiritually they'll help me along my way. And I know that spiritual help is necessary, as it's time to face off against La Primera, aka Gita. La Primera leads with Espathra, while I lead with Curry. Espathra sets up a Reflect, but that's useless as a Dark Pulse is able to take down Espathra in a single hit. Avalugg is next to come in, but it has a special defense stat of like 5, so a Flamethrower is able to take it down in a single hit. Next to come in is King Gambit, and Curry lands a strong Flamethrower that leaves King Gambit in the red, but a Stone Edge unfortunately ends his life. Wasabi can come in next and take down King Gambit with a Flamethrower and also one-shot the incoming Veluza with a Bug Buzz. Next for La Primera is her Go-Goat, and I set up a Quiver Dance while Go-Goat goes for a Bulk Up. I set up a second Quiver Dance while Go-Goat lands a Zen Headbutt, and then I set up a third Quiver Dance while a Zen Headbutt nearly takes a KO, but that's okay as a Bug Buzz is able to take down the Go-Goat next turn. Last up is La Primera's Glamora, who terrestrializes into a Rock type, but fortunately we're able to take down in a single Bug Buzz. With her defeat, we have qualified to become a champion, but not with a ton of bloodshed from all of our comrades. Unfortunately, we still have things to do, so while we have time to mourn, it's not very long. On the bright side, we still have a lot of encounters that we never picked up earlier in the game, so now we can do that now. Funnily enough, while looking for one of those encounters, we find a shiny Jumpluff. It would be sweet to have it on our team if it was a fire type, but unfortunately, we need to get rid of it. In the same area, we're able to find ourselves an Eevee who were able to evolve into a Flareon using a Firestone. I name him Takis, and then we're able to find our next teammate, Oricorio. Her nickname is Salsa, and the last 3 teammates we pick up are Szechuan the Torkoal, Buffalo the Numo, and Kimchi the Pyroar. From here, we return back to the academy, where Director Clavel reveals to us that he was Cassiopeia the whole time. He then challenges us to a battle where he leads with Oranguru and I lead with Volcarona. On turn 1, I set up a Quiver Dance, while Oranguru goes for a Yawn. I set up a second Quiver Dance while I go to sleep after, but wake up with a Chesto Berry. A Bug Buzz takes down Oranguru, and next to come in is Houndoom. I get greedy and set up another Quiver Dance, and I'm immediately punished by getting paralyzed by a Thunderfang. After a 4th Quiver Dance, I take down Houndoom using a Bug Buzz, and next to come out is Poltegeist, who gets one shot by a Flamethrower. Next to come out is Amoonguss, and I would hate to risk Wasabi, so I swap out to Tabisco, who takes a Hex on the switch-in. A Flamethrower doesn't quite take the KO, and another Hex leaves Tabisco in the yellow. Next to come in is Abomasnow, and I lose Tabisco in probably the stupidest way ever. I outspeed here and could have killed with Flamethrower, but I set up Sunny Day just in case of an Aurora Veil, and end up dying to a 70% accurate Blizzard. That's what you get for being stupid, I guess. Anyways, the rest of the battle is insanely simple, and that was really the only important part. What a stupid way to lose one of our veteran teammates. Anyways, we go to the school courtyard and face off against Penny, and Wasabi just sweeps with a Quiver Dance until the last Pokemon, where I'm forced to switch into Chili and take it down slowly but surely. I'm just tilted I lost to Tabisco, man. I hate this game. With Penny defeated, that is the end of the Starfall Street story, and next is to end off Arvin's story. I head over to his house and challenge him to a battle where I lead with Chili and he leads with Greedent, and turn 1 I burn him with a Will-O-Wisp. I then swap out to Talonflame on an Earthquake and then to Torkoal to try and Shell Smash sweep, but that fails as I get paralyzed, so I just decide to switch into Wasabi and set up a bunch of Quiver Dances, and then sweep Arven's entire team. With that, we defeat Arven's storyline, and it's time to face off against our final main story battle, Nemona. Speaking of which, we can head to the center of Mezagoza and challenge her to the final battle. She leads with Lycanroc while I lead with Buffalo. Lycanroc outspeeds and lands a Stone Edge, but Buffalo shakes it off and lands an Earthquake to take her down. Next for Nemona is her Gudra, so I swap out to Sichuan to set up the Sun against the Muddy Water. Then I double out into Volcarona on a Dragon Pulse. From here I set up a couple Quiver Dances and then launch a Bug Buzz that doesn't quite take out Gudra, but Gudra just misses a Muddy Water, which means next turn it goes down to a second Bug Buzz. Next to come out is Palmot, but they fall to a single Flamethrower, and the following the Dunsparce meets the same fate. The incoming Earthworm gets torched, and last to come in is Meowscarada. Meowscarada tries to Terrasilize, but it's all for nada as a Flamethrower takes it down in a single hit. With that, we have defeated Nemona for the final time and finally completed the Victory Road storyline. But that's not quite the end of our story, as we still have to venture into Area 0, a mysterious place where Venomoths are oddly colored, as well as the home for AI Professor Sada. After a whole spiel about disabling the time machine before it destroys the world, we have to battle AI Professor Sada in order to gain the right to destroy the time machine. As the battle commences, accompanied with one of the best soundtracks in the entire game, the AI Professor leads with Slitherwing while I lead with Bell. A 4-time super effective acrobatics tears apart Slitherwing, and next to come out is Fluttermane. Bell avoids a Power Gem to land a Steel Wing that does good damage, but next turn I sacrifice Bell and let her go down to a Power Gem. Rest in peace, one of our oldest team members in our party. From here I send in Buffalo, who takes way more than I thought he would from a Shadow Ball, but it's okay as an Earthquake takes down Fluttermane. Next to come out is Brute Bonnet, so I swap out to Volcarona and spam Quiver Dances until Brute Bonnet runs out of PP for Sucker Punch. And from here, Wasabi decimates the last 3 Pokemon, winning us the battle and completing the challenge. The rest of the game from here onwards is just a Koraidon battle, so I'd like to say I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you made it this far, make sure to comment W Wasabi, and to check out my Twitch channel in the link in the description, as on August 15th I will be attempting a Hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon Blaze Black 2 Redux. Anyways, thank you for watching, bye bye.